Romans relaxed here. Gentile Georgians promenaded here. And today it's only one of 2 cities with the status of World Heritage Site. I'm not in Venice, so where else could I be but the city of Bath? We have congregational hymns from one of the city's finest churches and songs from Tessera and Camilla Kerslake. I learned to dance like one of Bath's most famous residents, Jane Austen, and discover fresh inspiration in this ancient city. This water hasn't been touched by anyone since it fell as rain 8,000 years ago. This is the only spring in Britain that has water heated by the earth, and it's surprisingly warm. People have been visiting this natural wonder for thousands of years. It's the source of Bath's fame. It was the water which attracted the Romans 2,000 years ago. The remains of the original Roman baths continue to be one of its principal attractions. Much later, in the 18th century, the Romans provided the inspiration for one of the most famous architects of the Georgian era, John Wood. He designed some of Bath's most famous landmarks, including the Circus, based on the Colosseum in Rome. It's a city that feeds the imagination, conjuring up a real sense of life in centuries gone by. The city has almost an embarrassment of riches, with nearly 5,000 listed buildings. And we've come to St Swithins Church, and we're going to begin by singing words based on an 8th century Irish poem. This is one of our most inspiring hymns. Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart. One person forever associated with Bath is Jane Austen, of course. When her father chose to retire here, this became her home. Today, the city feels almost like a living homage to the characters and stories that she created, a setting for her pithy observations and critique of society in Georgian England. She's well known for her less than flattering portrayal of clergy in her novels, perhaps most famously with Mr. Collins, Elizabeth Bennet's unwelcome suitor in Pride and Prejudice.
And I am so far from objecting to dancing myself that I shall hope to be honoured with the hands of all my fair cousins during the course of the evening. And I take this opportunity of soliciting yours, Miss Elizabeth, for the first 2 dances.
I was surprised to discover that Christianity was not only important to Jane Austen, but actually at the heart of all her novels.
Jane Austen would come within the holiness tradition of Christian spirituality, which meant that what her faith meant to her was the importance of inward reflection and then allowing your life to be changed so that you become a better person and then influencing people around. And so in her greatest characters, there are certain traits you begin to realise are there. One would be the importance of stopping and reflecting. So you particularly see that in Elizabeth Bennet.
I cannot bear to think that he is alive in the world and thinking ill of me.
And the reflection on how I should live my life, and then the importance of, in a sense, your inner morals leading to your outer behaviour.
So go on then, what exactly is she criticising in Mr. Collins?
Mr. Collins is a snob. He's very, very anxious to succeed in life, but I think there are some reasons for that. You know, he doesn't come from a moneyed background. He is very dependent on Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who is his patron. But if you look at the scenes where Mr. Collins appears in Pride and Prejudice or Mr. Elton in Emma, it's only ever in their social role. You never actually see them in their religious role in church.
That I think it a right thing for every clergyman to set the example of matrimony in his parish.
Jane Austen's family, her mother was married to a clergyman, 2 of her brothers were clergy, and her cousins were clergy. They loved the character of Mr. Collins, so they didn't think at all that she was mocking religion.
I suppose in a way, by getting to know Jane Austen as a person, you then realise why faith isn't sort of up front in her novels. It's almost like her faith.
Yes, I think it is.
It's there in the background, plugging away.
And it's, you know, it is very much reflected in her characters. A lot of people say nothing happens in Jane Austen novels, people who haven't read them in depth, I hasten to add. And I think maybe outwardly not an awful lot happens, but the important thing for Jane Austen is what happens inside of people and about inward growth.